again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you here on a Sunday morning. So grateful to be with you. So thankful that you're a part of what we're doing here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. This month's talk is called The Courage to be Rooted. So I want to begin with a question for you. When was the last time someone in a spiritual community told you that you could just stop? Now, not stop growing, not stop evolving, just stop striving for a minute and stand in what you already are. In spiritual communities, we're very good at celebrating the leap. We celebrate the vision, the courage to change, the willingness to become something more. And in April, we did a whole month on that. It was good, and it's right, and sometimes very necessary. But there is a particular kind of exhaustion that can come from living in permanently becoming. From treating your own life like a renovation project that's never quite finished. From measuring yourself against the version of you that hasn't arrived yet, instead of trusting the one who showed up this morning. I want to applaud you for showing up this morning. Or maybe it's the afternoon. Regardless of when it is, I want to applaud you for showing up, not just to this talk, but to showing up in and as your life, as the everyday pieces of it. So May, this month, we're going to look at a little bit more, a tougher question. Not who are you becoming, but do you trust who you already are enough to stay with it, to stand in it, to not try and change what you are and what's going on around you? We have spent so much energy becoming that sometimes it's easier to forget the courage it takes to just be, to speak the truth and stand in it, to say, this is me, and stay with that. Now, I don't believe that Ernest Holmes wrote The Science of Mind to be a manual for perpetual self-improvement. It's not, I have to change again this year. He wrote it, I believe, as a declaration of about what already is. Remember, it's in The Science of Mind that we learn there is a power for good in the universe. And you can use it. Some have said, and are you letting it use you? But ultimately, Holmes wrote in the present tense. And one of the things we teach so well throughout the Center for Spiritual Living and in the New Thought movement is to speak in the present tense. There is a power for good in the universe, period, and you can use it. He didn't say there will be a power for good in the universe once you get your stuff together, once you put yourself all in alignment. He was saying that right now, in this moment, in this very moment, there is a power for good and you can use it as you are. You don't have to change. And I'm often reminded that Holmes was really influenced by the writings of Thomas Troward. Troward understood this at a level that, still sometimes just leaves me sitting looking at the book going, wow. You haven't read Troward lately. I make it a regular thing. I think you picking up the Dory lectures or anything by Thomas Troward every once in a while is a good reminder. And Troward was writing about the reciprocal universe and the reciprocal relationship between the individual mind and the universal mind. And not as something that we're trying to achieve. Again, we have to stop striving sometimes. Sometimes it's a good thing. But ultimately, this wasn't something to be achieved. It was something that is already the truth. There is the individual mind and the universal mind. And we are expressions of the universal mind, and yet we have the power to empower, to enact, to activate, to use the individual mind. So our work, if it's work, our work isn't to earn a place in the universe. It isn't about earning a spot in this relationship. The real work is simply awakening to the recognition that we're already in it. We are already the human and the divine. And that it's never been otherwise. So often in my life, I find myself again and again coming back to the reminder that there is not something to achieve, but there is something to simply be. That we're not discovering anything. We're rediscovering because sometimes we have forgotten. But a discovery implies that there's something new. I discovered a new world, a new way of looking at the world. And the reality is it's always been there. The world has always been there. Our ability to look at it has always been there. We just sometimes forget about it. So this distinction can get lost easily in New Thought teachings. We treat affirmation, as a great example, as if we're building something. I'm going to say my affirmations so I can build an idea. But Holmes and Troward were saying something even more radical. Affirmation is recognition. You're not constructing your good. You're uncovering what is already there. You're rediscovering, not discovery. You're rediscovering. You've always known it's there. You may not have carried your belief forward, but if we go back and search our youngest memories, we knew we were something special. We knew there was something special in the world. So by now, I imagine you're saying, okay, Robert, what's all this got to do with being rooted? The name of this talk is The Courage to be Rooted, right? Well, in New Thought, from my perspective, rooted or rootedness isn't stagnation. The roots aren't what hold us in place. They provide support, but they don't keep us locked in. So rootedness in New Thought is not stagnation. It's simply a recognition of what is permanent underneath the movement. It's an awareness of that the ground doesn't shift when the circumstances do. And that ground is not something you manufacture. The ground is what you already are. Rootedness is not refusing to move. It's knowing what moves with you, no matter where you go. Our consciousness moves with us, no matter where we go. So no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter what's going on out in the world, the roots are kind of like that foundation. It appears to be immovable, and yet it's not. There's flexibility. Think about the last time maybe you saw a grove of aspen trees. Now, if you haven't been up in the mountains lately to go see a grove of aspen trees, go do it, because now's when they're coming out. Spring is here, and we're getting color on the trees and leaves on the trees. And when a spring wind blows through, the trees, well, they do the sway, right? They do that move. And the roots, again, not so much anchors as the ground, the solid, the belief system, that truth that we know that keeps us in place. Unless, of course, it's time for us to get out of a place. Many of you know this is not necessarily theoretical for me right now. We've talked about this a little bit. The house that my wife and Laura and I live in, our lease is ending. And the homeowners are selling the home, and there's no extension. It's not like we can sign another lease. The kids have grown, and they've decided this was the perfect time for them to move on and start to build their lives away from living underneath mom and dad's house and rules and roof, and stop living out of our refrigerator too, which is a good thing. But over these last couple of months, what's shown up is the what ifs. And they showed up right on schedule. They always do, right? We're presented with the truth that a change is occurring, that some movement needs to take place, and the what ifs show up. What if the right place isn't out there? What if the timing doesn't work? I'll be traveling next week for a conference with INTA, the International New Thought Alliance, and that takes some time out of packing and purging and getting ready. What if the timing doesn't quite go together? What if everything doesn't come together? There's an old saying that I like to use that you may have heard. Everything works out in the end. Have you ever heard that? Everything works out in the end. So if things aren't working out, it's not the end. It's okay. Something better is going to come along. And now we've had a chance to take a look at a house that we think might be just the right one, and we don't know for sure yet. But what we know is there's always this or something better. That even though the branches may be swaying, the faith that is the ground, the faith that says, I am supported, I am supplied, that the divine has got my back, is still right there. So eventually something steadier than the fear begins to speak up. You with me? The what if show up, that's the fear. But eventually something stronger shows up. Here's what I know for sure. The perfect house for Laura and I already exists. We don't have to wait for somebody to build it. We don't have to wait for it to mysteriously just pop up in the middle of a neighborhood. It's already there. And it's right here in Colorado. Now, I'm not sure which house it is or which town it's in or which area of which city it's in. But in the divine, in the absolute, it's already chosen. The house exists. Maybe we're getting ready for it, or maybe it's getting ready for us. Either way, we don't have to manufacture a home. We don't have to try to force it. We don't have to try to chase it down. Our job is to stay rooted in the knowing while the details catch up to the truth. Have you ever been there? You know that it's going to work out. So you stay rooted in the knowingness and you let the truth catch up. Let the details catch up. So this is not denial, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the pressure isn't real. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be nice to know. The pressure is real. There are real timelines in the world going on right now. I've got places to be, as do you, and we've got only so much time before this place isn't ours anymore. But remember, even though the timelines may exert pressure, New Thought doesn't teach us that our good is coming if you worry about it hard enough, if you worry enough, if you kvetch about it and wring your hands about it. It teaches that our good is already established in the mind, in the divine mind, in the capital M mind. The good is already established, and that our work is to align our consciousness with what is already true. Not to beg for something that hasn't been decided yet. We are not a movement of begging and beseeching. We do not get down on bended knee and say, oh, please God, please God, please God, make that my home. We stand in the knowingness that the details will catch up with the truth. So there is a big difference here between being uprooted and being transplanted. We're gardeners. I know many of you are. And when you uproot a plant, the roots are severed. You rip it out of the ground and maybe it gets cut. Tree, you might have to cut the tree. The nourishment is cut off. The sustenance is cut off. But when a gardener transplants something, the roots travel with it. The plant arrives in new ground, already carrying everything it needs to grow and to flourish. So my wife and I, we're not being uprooted. We're being transplanted. Right now, right here. In this place we love called Colorado. Into a home that is already ours in spirit, even though I haven't necessarily walked through the front door yet, even though I haven't signed a lease yet. The house is already ours in spirit. We're just doing the work to give the details time to catch up with the truth. So the roots, the ministry, the calling, the leadership that this season is asking of me, all of it travels with me. None of it's at risk. None of it depends on a Zillow listing. Not about where it shows up. It's about trusting that it is showing up. See, the perfect home already exists. My job is to stay rooted in the knowing while the details catch up to the truth. So I have to ask, where is life calling you right now? What story are you telling yourself about your roots? Some of you might be in transition. I know a couple are. Some of you are in the middle of something that feels like being uprooted more than transplanted. And if not in this moment, I know you have somewhere in life. A job ended, a relationship changed, a health picture shifted. Something you counted on, a partner, isn't there anymore. It's human. It's understandable. It's understandable to look at the disruption and conclude that something has gone wrong. But New Thought doesn't teach us that. It teaches that there is an intelligence moving through all of this that knows exactly what it's doing. The divine timing is not our timing. But divine timing is also never late. The support you need for the life you are living is not something you have to earn or manufacture. The support you need for the life you are living is already there. It is in your roots. And here's the other thing. It knows your name. It's calling you. So the invitation for this month, and the one I'm living into myself right now, is to stop measuring your worth by the distance you still have to travel and start treating the ground you're already standing on as holy ground. You have already become something. You've already grown something. You've already earned something. Through the years, throughout your life, none of that can be taken away from you. The question for the month of May is, will you really trust it? Will you sink into that deep inner knowing of trust and a sense of assurance that everything is necessary for the fulfillment of your life's mission, your soul's purpose is coming into your life exactly as necessary? Because that is what's really happening. Lately, I've been reading an awful lot of Neville Goddard. About a year or more ago, a colleague did a webinar type thing and talked about a couple of passages in a Neville Goddard book and shared with us this anthology of all of Neville's writings, which is a pretty thick book, by the way. Being who I am, I ordered it, and I've been and then it sat on my shelf back there for close to a year. Eventually, I picked it out. Now, during the class, I read the passages we were supposed to read, but then the rest of the book sat on the shelf for the rest of the year. And I don't know, 2-3 months ago, I picked it back up again, and I actually put it on my nightstand. And so I've been reading Neville Goddard on not every night, but I've been working my way through the book, and it's a perfect bedside book because the chapters are not real long. Some of them are just a few pages. Sometimes you can read a few chapters. Actually, a couple of his books are so short you can read the whole book in one evening, in just an hour before heading to bed. So I've had this book on my bed, and I've been reading Neville. And I encourage you to check out his writings. He was writing in the mid-20th century, really kind of outside of the mainstream of New Thought. He wasn't one of the mainstream authors in New Thought. He wasn't He wasn't on the lecture circuit. He was based out of New York, and he was quietly doing his work to make sense of life. And he kept saying something that I have found myself returning to again and again and again right now. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let's break that down again. Assume the feeling. Now, don't go to that old joke about, assuming. Assume, I want you this week, this month, to assume the feeling of your wish as already fulfilled. Laura and I have been walking around this weekend as we've been doing stuff around the house, and we've been anchoring ourselves, rooting ourselves into a feeling tone of what it's going to be like to be in a new home. As we let go of the things that no longer serve around this home. So now this is not visualizing it as a future event. It's not about imagining, although our imagination is helpful. It's not affirming it into existence. Not coming from a place of lack, saying, "Oh, we want this. We want this is happening. We're going to keep saying it until it happens because we don't believe." No. Inhabit the feeling. Feel it as if it is already so, because it is already so. The wish you desire is already so in the mind of the one. Let your inner life be the evidence before the outer life catches up. Let your inner life be the evidence before the outer life catches up. That's rootedness. That is what it means to be grounded in truth, rather than, well, playing with the circumstances. See, the tree doesn't wait until spring to be a tree. A tree is a tree in winter and in drought and in every season that asks something hard of it. Its identity doesn't depend on what is happening above the surface. It depends on what is happening in the roots. This is the courage for this month. Not the courage to leap, the courage to be still in what you already know, to be rooted in the truth. The courage to stop arguing with your own enoughness and just let yourself stand in the truth. You have what you need. You're where you're supposed to be. And wherever the divine is leading you next, even if that's just out into the backyard, whether the divine's leading you across town or into a completely new season of your life, maybe it's into leadership you haven't fully claimed yet. Trust that your roots are going and growing with you. So as we come to a close today, I want you to know that all is well. Everything is working out because it's not the end. Not because the circumstances might say it's working out, because truth says so. And truth doesn't change. The tree doesn't wait until spring to be a tree. Its identity doesn't depend on what's happening above the surface. It depends on what's happening in its roots. If you're in a safe enough space to close your eyes, I invite you to please do so. Join me in a breath. Join me in a holy breath of oneness, a sense of recognizing that there is one power, one presence, one infinite intelligence, and that it is moving and breathing and having its being as all of life. There is only one self-existent cause that is forever taking on form and abandoning that form in order to take on new form. That oneness is revealing itself as your life, my life, perfectly. Whole, complete, nothing missing, nothing absent. And as I know that truth of my life, of your life, I come to recognize that truth of all life. People on the far side of the planet, people I've never met, people I don't like, people I don't agree with. All part of this thing we call God, the one. The power, the presence, the intelligence, the infinite wisdom. And I know the truth that is revealing itself here this day is not a truth of just today. It is the capital T truth of all time. One power, one presence, one infinite intelligence. And we are rooted in that truth. We are the very roots of that truth. So I invite you this day to sit, to stand, to be in a state of consciousness that recognizes we may sometimes be transplanted, but we are never truly uprooted. The courage of life is staying true to our roots, to the deep wisdom and the deep knowing, to the deep truth of who we are, divine expressions of God's life. To stay rooted in the knowingness that who we are and how we show up is absolutely vital to the evolution of human consciousness. To stay rooted in the truth that everything necessary for the fulfillment of your life's mission, your soul's purpose, is coming into your life exactly as necessary. And that if things are not working out, well, then it's not the end, because everything works out in the end. I invite each one that may hear these words to stand in this truth this day, this week, this month, for the remainder of this year, to stand in a deep sense of assurance that all is well and all is good, because all is God. And in this moment, I am filled with a sense of gratitude for the reminder of this truth, for the revelation of these words as they pour forth into awareness, knowing that as we loose these words into the universal creative law of life, that universal law of creation that is already acting upon these words, that these words, this prayer cannot be returned void or unfulfilled, that the divine is already on the job and already making it so. And we affirm that truth by just simply saying, and so it is. And so it is. Thank you, dear ones. Thank you so much for being with us today. For everyone watching now at live or at another time, I appreciate you being a part of what we're doing. Please feel free to leave some comments down in the comment box of whatever platform you're watching, and look around, because there should be a link somewhere to donate a few bucks to the kitty, as it were. This sacred community survives on the gifts, the tithes, and the offerings that you share. They do great work, not only in our community, but out in the world as well. So please consider making a donation, cslbouldervalley.org. I'm Dr. Robert. I'm going to get out of here for now, but until next time, I want to wish you peace and richest blessing. Bye now.